But let's talk about it. Let's talk about the game, the trade, mostly about the trade. It's the Hoops Nerd post-game show. All right, guys, before we get started, let's just give a shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Use promo code HoopsNerd at Prize Picks or on the Prize Picks app. I guess that's how you use apps. Use promo code HoopsNerd and you will get up to $100 matched. They will give you if you bet $5 and you use promo code HoopsNerd, they will give you $5 additional. You're basically doubling your bets up until $100. It's free money. So go sign up at Prize Picks. It supports the channel a ton. They are a great sponsor. They've been a great partner. So go support them. It supports me, and I would appreciate it. All right, guys, let's talk about this game. The Utah Jazz. Early this morning, we got the news. And by the way, let me know if the stream is working. It's not looking great in YouTube, but I'm assuming it's working. Anyways, here. I want to make sure this is going. All right, so, anyways, all right, not going great on this one. Anyways, the Jazz trade, let's see, Mike Conley to the Minnesota Timberwolves right before this game. That was crazy because it made me really, I mean, has that ever happened where you make a trade with the team you're playing that day? Mike Conley could have put a Wolves jersey on and just played for the Timberwolves that night, so that was pretty wild. They also trade Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt to the Los Angeles Lakers. In that trade, the Lakers, they get Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and D'Angelo Russell from the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Lakers upgraded their what's it called? Their rotation players. Man, this is weirding me out with what YouTube's doing here. I wish they'd fix this. This is crazy. But anyways, they get three rotation players. The Minnesota Timberwolves get Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker from the Jazz, as well as 2 second-round picks from the Jazz. So the Jazz are actually putting a pretty good amount out there to make this trade happen. But they do get back a top 4 protected first-round pick from the Los Angeles Lakers in 2027, which is actually really awesome. I know some people on Twitter and you know, the Jazz sphere out there are not very happy with the trade. But here's the thing. We heard multiple days before the Utah Jazz were scouting around trying to find trade partners. They were trying to find people that would take the pick. And obviously there were not as many out there as maybe we thought there would be. There just weren't. And so they went with the best trade possible. And I think really you've got to look at this as one. They get a really, really nice first round pick rather than like some late 20s pick or maybe a couple like picks at like 25. Instead, you get a top 4 protected first-round pick from the Lakers, which will likely be pretty good. This will be post-LeBron, and we'll see where it goes. Now, if it falls to top 4, it does convey to just a second-round pick. So not a great conveyance there, but it's really hard for a team to fall in the top 4. The Jazz tried to this year and also trying to keep prospects, and they are way beyond being a bottom 4 team. It's just really hard to do. Now, if they win the lottery, obviously anyone can win the lottery if you're in the lottery, but it's really hard to get that top 4 pick. So we'll see. If it doesn't convey, that would suck, but it's a good pick. The other thing is that the Jazz also are going to get a nice player in this draft, something we've wanted for a while. This is what the point of the season was at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to share this so other people can join now that we're live. But that was the goal from the beginning of the season, right? Was to get a good pick. But then the Jazz got Lauri Markkanen, and he turned into an absolute all-star for the Jazz. Let me just post this live. Okay. So the Jazz get Lauri Markkanen this year, and he turned into a literal all-star. And he might be an all-star starter after we found out that Zion Williamson isn't playing. So that's pretty incredible. But then also they get Colin Sexton back, and then Walker Kessler turns out to be a first-team all-rookie. They get Ochai Agbaji, who's turned into a nice three-point shooter for them. And then, of course, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and Mike Conley, and all these role players that were still on the team, Jordan Clarkson, still really good players. And there's a reason why other teams were interested. Now, not high first round pick interested, but getting a top pick from the Lakers in 2027 is amazing. And by the way, those two players, Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt, obviously not Conley, weren't even on the Jazz last year. So Danny Ainge effectively got another first-round pick out of the Rudy Gobert trade with players the Minnesota Timberwolves gave to the Jazz. They were not going to get this type of pick with just Mike Conley. It just was not going to happen. He did not have the value. He just had none. I mean, he's had a nice year this year, but he turned his ankle the game before this one, right? Right? And if you want to get worse so you get a good player in this draft while also getting draft capital back, you got to go with the best trade possible, and that was what they did. So, you know, I know that some fans are not as excited about it. I'm personally pretty excited about it. Would I have liked to get 2 first-round picks? I would have, but the value wasn't there. Jared Vanderbilt has not had kind of a breakout season that I think everyone thought he might, and that's just too bad. And, you know, Mike Conley is an aging player, and he has a big contract. I mean, part of what Mike Conley's value was that he was able to fit with the contract so they could bring Russell Westbrook over. And that was basically his value. They basically had, well, not with the Minnesota Timberwolves, but they had to basically give second-round picks for them to take Mike Conley. That tells you what his value was. You know, we had heard multiple times with the Clippers that they were interested in a point guard and they had interest in Mike Conley, but they would always follow up those rumors that they want Fred VanVleet more. You know, he's an aging point guard that was only owed about $20 million next year, but what are you really getting out of Mike Conley? Long term, nothing. You're basically renting Mike Conley for this year and next year and hoping he stays healthy, something he hasn't been able to do for the Jazz, right? You know, I love Mike Conley. He's an incredible guy, incredible teammate, and it's going to be a loss. The Jazz are definitely going to lose more games because Mike Conley's gone, but that was kind of the point, right? That was the point. Yeah, and so the thing is Jazz fans, this is something I was trying to convey, and I don't always know if I do a good job. I probably come off as the biggest douchebag on Twitter. But the value that these picks had was created by one guy, Danny Ainge. He was the one putting out the rumors, right? So let's just look at this from a big picture perspective. Last offseason, Danny Ainge absolutely did one of the greatest trades in Jazz history. It is the greatest trade in Jazz history. What they got for Rudy Gobert is out of this world. Out of this world. It'll never be better than that. It was such a good trade that it wrecked the market. It destroyed the market. Kevin Durant demanded a trade, and they couldn't trade him because of what happened with Rudy Gobert. It was like hyperinflation in the NBA market. They could not, because they couldn't trade him for what Rudy Gobert got, but they wouldn't have even wanted to trade Kevin Durant for what Rudy Gobert got because they needed to get more. There is no way you are going to trade Kevin Durant for less than what Rudy Gobert got. So it broke the market, you know, and considering what they got for Donovan Mitchell post the Rudy Gobert trade, it's incredible. They got an all-star, a 6th man of the year type player in Colin Sexton, and 3 first-round picks plus pick swaps. They have 15 first-round picks, including this one, after this offseason up through 2029. It's bonkers what the Jazz had. So if someone is frustrated with what the Jazz got in this trade, well, then you're frustrated with what Danny Ainge did this last offseason, because he is the one who set your expectations, right? No one else got anything near what the Jazz got for Rudy Gobert or Donovan Mitchell. Danny Ainge destroyed him. You know, the closest thing was DeJounte Murray in Atlanta, and he got 2 first-round picks. That's it. And I think a swap. But the Jazz got more for Rudy Gobert than that. And they got more for Donovan Mitchell than that. I mean, the Rudy Gobert trade is bonkers because they got immensely more than that. And now they're making another trade with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And they get Mike Conley. The Jazz send them 2 first-round picks. They take Mike Conley. Pretty remarkable they'd even take a phone call from Danny Ainge. But anyways, the reports also, and this comes from like Tony Jones and multiple other reporters, were that the Jazz, like Tony Jones, and I think he deleted the tweet, he just said that the Jazz were talking to literally everyone in the league. Well, why are the Jazz making phone calls if there's that much value? Probably because there wasn't. Especially when everyone knows if you want to play big, would you rather have an aging Mike Conley who's in the twilight of his career, if not already post, or Fred VanVleet? Right? And so that trade is pretty, I mean, that's pretty obvious that if you're going to make a big move for a guy, you're probably going for Fred VanVleet over Mike Conley. So, and we'll see if Fred VanVleet even goes, but the value wasn't there. So there you go with that. And then Jared Vanderbilt just was not worth a first-round pick. We had seen multiple reports from multiple reporters. He was not worth a first-round pick. The biggest that we had heard, and the report was 2 second-round picks, right? So I guess if you're complaining about the fact that no one was going to give a first-round pick for Mike Conley. You were going to get, what, 2 second-round picks for Jared Vanderbilt. And then, yes, Malik Beasley. So the Jazz were trying to say they wanted a first-round pick for all 3. Well, that wasn't there. It wasn't there. What you want for something is not always what you get, okay? It's just how it goes. That's how the market goes. And so basically what the Jazz said is, well, we could, and we don't know all the other trades that could have been out there. It's possible they could have got like a late first from somebody for these guys. You get a pick in like the 20s, but do you want to make 5 first-round picks in this draft? How are you going to play all of them? Especially if they're like late 20s guys. They'll need development time, and I don't know how much you want to bring in 5 rookie draft picks. So you're just deciding, like, do you want late 20s picks at best, or do you want a nice pick, like a top 4 protected pick from the Lakers in 2027 post LeBron? Has a chance to be a really good pick, like a top 10 pick possibly. The Lakers are going to try, and so maybe they get really good somehow and get someone in free agency. Who knows? But that has a chance to be a really nice pick. It just does. And so I think that's the decision the Jazz made. The other thing is you're trading to move your way up in this current draft. Let's share my screen here. Not there. There we go. Forgetting lately. The box score, but you're looking to get up here. This was the plan all along, and I've heard from people about this, that this was the plan all along, even from 2 years ago. This was going to happen. And the Jazz made those trades last offseason with the expectation that they would probably be in this range this year. We all expected it. Anyone who didn't expect this, good for you. You were a fortune teller. Like, I did not expect Lauri Markkanen to turn into what he did today. Not at all. If you guys expected that you have a lot of future vision, but like most people, vast majority, just expected this Jazz team to not be very good. They did not expect Lauri Markkanen to do what he did this year. That was just out of left field, And anyone who knew much about Walker Kessler outside of hardcore draft people, I mean, we did draft prep, and I had seen like a video on Walker Kessler that he could block a lot of shots. And the goal, like the hope was that and we had talked about it earlier in the year, well, can he move? If he can move, then he might be pretty good. Well, turns out he can move, and he's better than we thought. And so Walker Kessler turned into this all rookie first team guy. Lauri Markkanen turned into a literal all-star and will be a starter in the all-star game, possibly with Zion Williamson out. Did anyone expect that? Not me. It went way beyond what we thought. And so I think Danny Ainge and them were thinking that, well, we can keep these rotation players and then move them at the trade deadline while also being bad. And they might have been able to keep Jared Vanderbilt had they not been this good. But they were way too good. Now the Jazz can drop in this draft, and we've got lots of players to look at. Oh, mama. Oh, mama. And basically, here's the thing. After tonight, the Jazz are now 17-29. Look at this. The Lakers are going to win more games. That's another thing that this trade does. It helps them win more games. They will jump minimum to this spot. The Oklahoma City Thunder are really freaking good. I think it's Jalen Williams with them. I can't remember if it's Jalen. He's really good. They hit on him, and he was later in the draft. Chicago, they're going to try to win games this year. They're just trying. Portland, trying to win games this year. They traded Josh Hart, but they're going to win more games. The Jazz are going to lose more games than they will. The Jazz are going to rise in this draft, and they're going to be worse than Indiana. Honestly, by the end of this season, you're looking at the Jazz being the number 6. Indiana, I can't remember where they're at. If Halliburton's playing, they've lost 2 of their last 10, or they've won. They're 2-8 in their last 10. But they're going to win games unless they start resting players and try to stay in this range, which maybe they do. But there's still a lot of season left to be played. And this Utah Jazz team, after tonight, where they lose 143 to 118 to a shorthanded Wolves team, the Jazz are going to lose a lot of games. In fact, if you go through the Jazz season, how many games are they going to even be favored in going from here on out? You know? So it was, it's a tough trade because I love Mike Conley. Malik Beasley is like, his story is great and it was fun to watch. And, he had even said, if you listen to like the Uncut podcast with Mark Stein, it might be like sadness listen if you go listen to it now. But what he just talked about how he loved being in Utah. When he first heard about Utah, he was like, Utah? He comes to Utah and he said, now I love it. I want to be here. And Jared Vanderbilt, I think, was pretty clear he was going to be traded. By the way, go 3-4 videos back. I told you. I had heard some things. I told you. Anyways, this does some things for the Jazz. By the way, speaking of the Wolves, if any Wolves fans are even watching this still, Jalen Noel just went off tonight, 30 points, but that's because the Jazz defense is putrid. And then obviously Anthony Edwards went as well. Near triple-double for Edwards. Look at that. Let's just talk a little bit about how this helps the Jazz with the current roster. Jordan Clarkson, I'm going to go live tomorrow during trade deadline because I don't know if the Jazz are done. They may be doing even more. Jordan Clarkson looked as dejected as could be tonight, and I think it would be kind of cool to send him to a team that's winning. But, can you get a first-round pick for Jordan Clarkson? Maybe. There might be a team willing to do that. But here's the thing. Lauri Markkanen, even on a night where they were shell-shocked at losing all their teammates and stuff, he still goes a 50, 40, 90. It's crazy. And so can the Jazz get lucky in this draft? Can you be top 6 and get lucky? Can you get Scoot Henderson? By the way, Gray, my boy, is all about Scoot Henderson. He's like, did we get Scoot yet, Dad? If we get Scoot, I am going to be so excited. Gray is going to be ecstatic. That boy. By the way, the Hunters, my junior Jazz team, season ended yesterday. We won our final game. We ended the season 6-2, and we're going to get Gray into AAU. I just accepted with one of the AAU coaches to be one of the coaches on the AAU team here. So why did I do that? Well, the coach said because I didn't get to go to the draft. This is me just being arrogant and patting my own back. But guess what? I didn't get to go to the draft. I had the final. Well, I didn't get to see any of the players try out. I had to make the draft because the ladies' emails wasn't getting to me. And so I didn't even get to see players draft. I went off of notes from someone else. I got the last pick in our draft, and we won second or third place. I can't remember. 6-2, baby. Defense all the way. Anyways, I'm going to be coaching AAU this upcoming year, so pretty excited about that. But anyways, Lauri Markkanen, like we said, just the efficiency numbers are incredible. The Jazz just have no defense. I mean, they have rim protection with Walker Kessler, who, by the way, had a really nice night tonight. Just solid night for him. 16 points, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks. Standard Walker Kessler night. He's going to be a just walking double-double for the rest of his. Just really great. If you're doing prize picks, if you want to bet the over on Walker Kessler rebounds, you are going to hit more often than not. But anyways, Jordan Clarkson plays 24 minutes. You could tell he was dejected. If you watch his post-game interviews, he was not happy. 8 points for him. Colin Sexton balled tonight. Like, at least in his scoring, he was 60% from the field, 80% from 3. The guy is just efficient. And then he had 5 assists. They can really turn Colin Sexton into something. So we're going to see what they figure out. But you know who else really kind of gets a boost from this? Ochai Agbaji. I don't know why this did not update because Talon Horton Tucker played. These can't be right. Let's see. Can't be right. That's, in fact, I'm showing you numbers from like Da da da. No. Oh my gosh, guys. Here's the joy of going live. Just one. So 22 points for, was that right? Yes. Okay. At least we have these players. Okay. So cool. It didn't put all of it. So 24 minutes for Ochai Agbaji, but he has 4 rebounds. And you know what? This is going to help him grow because he is going to get minutes and he's going to get to play and he's going to get to have a chance to actually show something where he might not have gotten those minutes before. I really enjoyed him getting more minutes with the vets. And now it's going to be him on a bad team. And can he flourish? That's a big question. If he can, then the Jazz hit on another player. But, you know, you want to see him hit some shots and you'd like to see him show a little more than what he's doing because he did play multiple years in college. So, let's see. Taylor Norton Tucker is going to be a winner in this because he's going to get a lot more minutes. 6 assists tonight, 15 points. He's going to need to learn to play much more controlled and better. Did you know Taylor Horton Tucker's younger than Ochai Agbaji, by the way? So Taylor Horton Tucker is, how old is he? 22. Ochai Agbaji is 22. Okay, they're about the same age. But anyways, interesting just note about Taylor Horton Tucker. He still has, like, he's still young, so he can still grow theoretically. But tonight, 6 for 12 from the field, 6 assists, 15 points. He played pretty well. So nice to see. Uh, you know, that is basically what it boils down to with this trade is the Jazz are going to be better in this draft. They get the nicest possible first round pick they could from the Los Angeles Lakers. A top 4 protected pick is about as close to a sure thing of get that conveying without it being unprotected. So that's about as much as you can hope for. Obviously, Jazz fans hope for more, but I think that hope was not. I don't think it was realistic to get the picks that I think Jazz fans were hoping for. I mean, I hoped for more too. When I saw it was just one, it kind of felt like, well, it's not going to be multiple, but at least hopefully it's a good one. This seems like they got about as good as they could for these players that weren't even on the team last year, you know? So, in some ways frustrating and in some ways it basically kind of panned out like it probably should have. We'll see tomorrow. Maybe, maybe the Toronto Raptors get just a massive haul for Fred VanVleet, but my guess is that this market has finally kind of corrected itself a little bit because Danny Ainge was the one who broke it, So Danny Ainge broke the market, and now maybe Danny Ainge fixes it with this pick, with this trade that maybe looks to a lot of Jazz fans pretty underwhelming. Although I think it was actually pretty because it serves multiple purposes, And by the way, there's another element to this. Another element, which maybe means, the Jazz might not be picking up Jordan Clarkson next year. The Jazz, like we've talked about on this channel, they only get their first round pick next year if they're a bottom 10 team. So what happens this year is they get their 3 draft picks, which will likely play a lot next year with Larry Markkinen and Walker Kessler, and they develop alongside them. Ochai Agbaji, Colin Sexton will probably not win enough games to be better than bottom 10. And then they get their first round pick again. And then at that point, you're hoping that the Jazz really start retooling and rebuilding after next season. So it's going to be a season next year where we watch young players develop, which, by the way, has been pretty fun. Who here has enjoyed watching Walker Kessler? Because I know I have. It's been fantastic. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And so that will be interesting, next year to watch those young players develop. But my guess is this is also a move for next year to set them up, get something for these guys. They will not win a ton of games next year unless they go. The other thing they get is $60 million in cap space. So who knows? Maybe they go out and offer someone and get someone to come in, or maybe they trade people into that cap space. You never know. That is a possibility, Kevin Durant is likely going to be traded this upcoming offseason. If you hit in the draft, let's say the Jazz get super lucky and get, Scoot Henderson or Wembanyama, and you have this cap space and picks to go get Kevin Durant. Do you do that and just go get Kevin Durant? I don't know. That's like, there's a scenario where that happens, They have the picks to make a move like that. But really, it kind of, and we've talked about this so many times. I tweeted about it a million times. We've talked about it every single night. There's just not really a route to winning a championship this year by trying and to make the play-in tournament. It does you no good in the long term in winning a title. You know, I sometimes wonder if I sometimes wish that I could just think of things like some of the football fans do, where they're just like, can you fill this gap and fill this gap and fill this gap? And then you just go hopefully win a title. It's just not the same thing in basketball. It's just not. If you want to win a title, you've got to have an MVP caliber player. You just do. You just do. And the Jazz are going for it this year. They are going for an MVP caliber guy this year, and they are going to try next year until they do it. You cannot win a title. It has not happened for Utah. Has not been in the finals since they had who? An MVP player, multi-year MVP in Karl Malone. That is the last time they made the finals. They have not made the finals since. You know? And go look at who won the titles. Who wins it last year? The Golden State Warriors? Well, MVP and Steph Curry. Year before, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo winning the title, MVP. Before that, you have LeBron James winning the title. I mean, just go back and look at it. Kawhi Leonard with the Raptors, MVP caliber player. You have to have that guy. And if you don't, you don't win. So and Utah is not a free agency destination. LeBron James is not coming to Utah in free agency, right? You're not getting KD in free agency. If you want KD, you have to trade into cap space to bring him over, if that's what you want. Or, more likely, you have to draft him. How did the Jazz get Karl Malone? They drafted him. How did the Bucks get Giannis? They drafted him. You know? How did the San Antonio Spurs get Tim Duncan? They drafted him. You normally don't get those players if you're not the Lakers outside of the draft. You know, and people can talk about, well, you know, does tanking work? Does tanking not work? Well, that's probably not the question you should be asking. The question you should be asking, does the draft work? And yes, the draft works. It is the way that you get these players. And if you can hit multiple, I mean, even with the Golden State Warriors, they just hit on the draft. Steph Curry was like a number 6, 7 pick, which is where the Jazz will be in this draft. By the way, they hit on Draymond Green and they hit on Klay Thompson. You have to hit in the draft. You have to hit multiple times. We're seeing that with the Boston Celtics. Danny Ainge knows how that works. They got Jason Tatum, MVP caliber player this year. I think either Jokic or Embiid is going to win it this year, but he's up there. But then they have multiple all-stars that they got through the draft. They're a really good team, and they are going to likely be a finals contender this year. So that's just how it goes. And I know some people just like to have the team win, and they don't like to lose, which is understandable. Well, sometimes you got to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, especially in this league. It's just how it goes. It's fun to have a MVP player, by the way. Like those teams with John Stockton, Karl Malone, I enjoyed them very much. A lot. And, you know, guess what? How did they get Darren Williams? They traded up. I mean, they were 6 and they traded up to 3, I believe. I can't remember exactly. But that was a player they got in the draft. Andre Kirilenko, they hit on in the draft. They did get Carlos Boozer agency. Arguably, I could be wrong. Let me know. I don't believe they traded for him. I believe it was just straight up free agent. Arguably the best agency pickup in Jazz history. I could be off. I can't remember. I don't have time to look it up. I can't remember. Anyways, should we do our nightly draft mock? Yeah. So now, the Utah Jazz upped their standings in the lottery already. My internet's not been great today, guys. I'm sorry. Anyways, so let's refresh this. The Jazz sit now at number 12. Boom, look at that. Very close to passing up the Oklahoma City Thunder. Very close to passing up the Chicago Bulls. And they can really catch the Toronto Raptors too. All right, guys, let's see where the Jazz fall. Are you ready? Boom. So the Jazz stay at number 12, but this gets them. We moved up. We get Jet Howard, lights out shooter from Michigan. Guess what? It's going to be better. Can you get Nick Smith or Cam Whitmore? I'd be happy with that. At worst, that's what we got to get at worst. This means the Jazz got to do their job and lose some games. It's what you've got to do. At this point, commit. Commit, commit, commit. You're not going to catch these guys. These losers. You're not going to catch them. But you can get here. You can 100% get here. 100%. In fact, I'd bet money the Jazz are number 6 by the end of the year when lottery night hits. Now, once your lottery, let's look at this. People are like, oh, you don't have a chance. Well, you've just upped your chance to a 9% chance at the number 1 overall pick, which is just 14 for everyone else, and a 37% chance at a top 4 pick. That's pretty good odds. You're telling me 37% chance to get top 4 and get like Scoot Henderson or something? Are you kidding me? I would take that. Much better than it was years past, and it's going to be better than what we would have been doing if we'd have just been trying to get in the play-in and get the 15 pick. Because if you get in the 15 pick, you're getting Dariq Whitehead, who's been a massive disappointment at Duke. We'll see if he turns out to be anything, but he has been not super impressive. All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars. Thanks for joining tonight, guys. Why would all these people be watching on a night when the Jazz lost? Perhaps it was the trade. All right, let's give a shout out to the All-Stars. Let's give a shout out to Ezekiel Rice-Sebe, the man from down under. See ya, Lexalator, Alexander, Built Ford Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jared Shanderbilt, Shantheric, we might have to think of a new nickname. We might have to. Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de abajo, Baby Elliott Matson, Jordan the Goat, Best Roll, Just Buckets, JB, Zap Watts, Total Game Domination, TGD, Christian House, Money to Haas, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, X marks the spot for Zintas, Joshua Hansen, The Danish Destroyer, Austin Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, Donald Schooley, Schooling All of Us, DWCB, Darren Williams, DeCarlos Boozer, Patrick Kukubo, The Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. All right, guys. And yeah, you're right, DWCB. Name of the game is lose. Lose like you've never lost before. Like Martin Short in Three Amigos when he's talking to the ladies sewing, like sew like the wind. Danny Ainge is talking to all the Jazz players. Lose like the wind. Lose like your heart dependent on it, like the season dependent on it, because it literally does. Lose. L. Every loss is good. Winning, bad. Lose, good. Get it done. Get this MVP player. Get us Scoot. Get us Wemby. I'll talk to you later.